Keyboard Maestro is a $36 utility that creates macros, sequences of events that you can trigger with a keyboard shortcut. Macros are among the most time savings of inventions ever. With a macro, you can automate repetitive tasks with precision so they execute faster and always execute exactly the way they're supposed to. The good old macOS dictionary defines a maestro as a great performer, especially a musician. Now, while Keyboard Maestro from Stairway Software isn't a musician, it's definitely a great performer when it comes to saving time and effort. In fact, I'd be hard-pressed to name another app that saves me as much time or as many keystrokes every day as Keyboard Maestro, with the exception of perhaps Text Expander, which we'll talk about in the next lesson. The whole Swiss Army knife on steroids thing is overdone, so I'm just going to call Keyboard Maestro the Leatherman multi-tool on crack of Mac utilities. Simply put, Keyboard Maestro makes macros, but to call it a mere macro maker does it a supreme disservice. Yeah, it's a macro maker, but it's much more than that. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't pause at this point and explain exactly what I mean by a macro. As far as I'm concerned, a macro is any sequence of actions on your Mac that can be saved and then invoked and played back with a single keystroke or another trigger. Actions you can string together in your macros include launching an app, moving or clicking the mouse, typing text, choosing a menu item, opening a file, opening a folder, and hundreds of more actions. Creating a macro is pretty easy. There's an easy-to-use macro editor, it's drag and drop, and a huge library of actions. Macros save you time in several ways. For one, you don't have to stop typing and reach for the mouse. For another, macros execute much faster than you can type or click. And macros never make typos. Finally, macros can string together multiple actions to create something that would require several time-consuming steps to perform manually. Here are just a few of the things I use it for every day to save time. I use it to launch and switch to the apps I use every day by merely typing the appropriate keystroke. For Word, I type Control plus F4, Photoshop, Control F3, Safari and Chrome, Control F11, Control Shift F11, Mail, Control F9, Fantastical, my calendar, Control F8, and lots of others. I also use it to open specific files, folders, and disks by just typing a keystroke. For example, to open my work folder in the Finder, I just type Command-Option-Control-W. Compare that to the half dozen or more clicks it might take to burrow down to that folder the old-fashioned way. I also use it to add keyboard shortcuts to menu items that lack them. Yeah, you can do that in the Keyboard System Preferences pane in the Shortcuts tab, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but Keyboard Maestro makes it even easier and tends to just work. The Keyboard System Preference pane way often requires some trial and error to get the shortcut to work the way you want it to, but I'm going to show you how anyway. But first, before I do that, Keyboard Maestro's best feature may be the clipboard history, which you use to view or paste any of the last 100 items you cut or copy to the clipboard. That is totally cool, and if you're not using something that saves your last 100 clipboards so you can reuse them, you're missing out a lot. Keyboard Maestro can even record actions, a series of actions even, and play back the sequence when you like by typing a keystroke. Here's one of my favorite macros. This one clicks the Don't Save button in dialog boxes when I type Control, Shift, and D. I use that macro all the time, and every time I do, it saves me from having to grab the mouse. Now, while Keyboard Maestro's drag and drop editor is pretty easy to use, you can also build them with the record feature, which lets you record what you do with the keyboard and mouse and save it for later playback. But I have to warn you, if you choose to record rather than drag and drop, you'll probably have to tinker with the recording a little to make it work the way you want. There's so much more to like about Keyboard Maestro, and there's a free trial available so you can check it out before you commit. But before we leave the realm of abbreviations and substitutions, I'd be remiss if I didn't show you how to make a keyboard shortcut for free using the Keyboard System Preference pane's Shortcuts tab. So here's how you do that. Ready? 1. Launch System Preferences. 2. Click the keyboard icon. 3. Click the Shortcuts tab. 4. Click App Shortcuts. 5. Click the little plus. 6. Choose an application from the drop-down menu. Microsoft Word in this. 7. Type the menu item's exact name in the menu title field. Word count in this example. 8. Type the shortcut you want to use in the keyboard shortcut field, Control W in this example. 9. Click the Add button. Now, when I press Control W while using Microsoft Word, the word count dialog pops open instantly. I'd estimate this is at least twice as fast as reaching for the mouse, pulling down the menu, and looking for the command in the Tools menu, if you're wondering, and then selecting word count. We'll leave it at that for now, but as you can see, Keyboard Maestro is far more powerful and can perform this trick far more easily, with many more tricks that would be difficult or impossible without it. And that's about it for macros and shortcuts. In the next lesson, we'll look at another of my favorite time-saving devices, snippets. Don't know what a snippet is? Don't worry. After the next lesson, you will.